what was the other thing you brought out, that they all had attended seminary?
Oh,
and
yeah.
that a little bit, too.
Yeah, because, right, he has this thing about that more than half of the signers of the Declaration of Independence were ministers. And this is the basis of that is that they attended ceremonies. 27 of the signers attended seminaries. Okay, now, seminary just means college. So if you really look at these guys' bios, which I have done, only 2 ever really became ministers, and only 1 was a minister at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That was John Witherspoon. The rest had degrees in law or business. Some of them, like the gentleman farmer types, like had a general education, then went back to their farms. The other minister was no longer a minister because he got booted out of his church. Lyman Hall, from Georgia, the signer of the Declaration from Georgia, became a minister, but then got booted out of his church in Connecticut for a moral indiscretion. I'm still researching, trying to find out exactly what that moral indiscretion was, but, boinking one of the parishioners' wives or something. I don't know. I want to find out. I'm sure it's going to be a good story, and it'll be in the next volume of my book. But so then he moved down to Georgia and became a doctor by the time he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence. So Barton's whole thing, and he used to just say they went to seminaries and just let his audience assume that meant they had theological degrees. Now he's gotten more blatant and actually says they had Bible and minister degrees. So he doesn't even, he's gotten, his lies, if anything, have gotten more blatant.
You know, another thing that I have noticed is, like, for example, there was the, what did they call it? This is the one that was sponsored by the Family Research Council, the Value Voters Conference.
Oh, Value Voters Summit, yeah.
Oh, Summit, yeah.
Summit, yeah.
Calling it conference. But they were, when they presented the award to the how do you say it, Duggar family? For, the political people.
Yes, Duggar.
All right. Well, there's Tony Perkins, giving this award, and he reads it, and he signs it, and he emphasized this with, just really emphasized it. And he goes, "In the year of our Lord, 2010." And you bring this up, Chris, because that's like one of the things that they...
Well, that was one of the "In the year of our Lord Christ" thing. Which, okay, one of Barton's big claims, and he actually one of the videos on my website has this. It's the video that's titled "No, Mr. Beck, Thomas Jefferson did not date his documents in the year of our Lord Christ." What Barton did was, okay, so there's a lot of documents dated in the year of our Lord, by this president or that president, but Thomas Jefferson, the man who, coined the phrase separation of church and state, he went even further. He signed his presidential documents in the year of our Lord Christ. Well, it turns out that all that was there was a pre-printed form called ship's papers. It was basically the document that every ship leaving the United States had to carry that had, information about the ship. Basically, it was the proof that it was an American ship. It's a passport. They were also called passports. And these were pre-printed documents and had an oath section, and the language of that section, they were printed in columns, 4 different languages, 4 different translations, because these were ships going all over the world, and the language of these passports or ship's papers was the language mandated by a treaty with the Netherlands, which was a Christian nation at the time, that John Adams had made back in like 1782, right after, at the tail end of the Revolutionary War, before we even really were officially independent, before Britain had recognized our independence. So it's really, really hard for John Adams and Thomas Jefferson over there in Europe trying to get these nations of Europe to make treaties with the United States. So there's this language in the treaty, like John Adams would have been able to say, hey, we're not going to sign this treaty of commerce with you, which is very important because, you date your ship's papers in the year of our Lord Christ, okay? So this language remained on American ship's papers until the 1820s, because it was mandated that the exact language from the treaty had to be in it. Barton has gotten his hands on 2 of these ship's papers, which were pre-printed in bulk. Then the President and the Secretary of State signed piles of them, and they were sent to the ports, and then the Port Authority officials filled them out as needed and gave them to the ship captains. So this is Barton's basis of Thomas Jefferson dated his presidential documents in the year of our Lord Christ.
Uh-huh.
And that's it. I mean, if you research these things, which is, of course, what I do, you find out, well, what was that document? And you look. So Barton, I wrote about that after I put that video up on Huffington Post in my No Mr. Beck series. Beck then, the next time he has Barton on his show, references my post, doesn't say, not me by name. He said, well, some professor said that was a lie on the, on the Huffington Post, whatever. And I also have a video up about that. And of course calls me some professor. I'm not a professor, and I don't claim to be the way Barton does, but, that some professor said this because, of course, he's got to lump me, with those, academic, elite, liberal, leftist, whatever, fascist, Marxist.
Is that they can just discount whatever somebody else comes back with.
Well, and then Barton's response when Beck asked him was this smug, sanctimonious snickering and saying, oh, yeah, because at the end of my video I had said, so Barton, let's see some of these other documents, right? And he makes his lie even bigger in the second round, saying, oh, yeah, there's thousands of them.
But here's the thing that's so sad about all this is that most Americans wouldn't even take the time to look at anything else.
Right.
So many people look at Fox News for their source that that's all they look at. And this is how we're gaining this population of misinformation voters.
Well, actually, the audience for Beck's show when this came up, you have different audiences for this or that. This was an audience of teenagers.